My name is Jimmy Purdy, shop owner, master tech, transmission builder, and the host of the Gearbox Podcast. Here I talk with new and seasoned shop owners, as well as industry professionals about day-to-day operations within their own shops and all the failures and successes that come along the way. From what grinds your gears to having to shift gears in the automotive industry, this is the Gearbox Podcast.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the bad stigma, it's interesting to jump right into it like that. You know, in the automotive industry, then hear you say that kind of. I mean, obviously you're not an outsider, but I mean, not being in the industry, but that always intrigues me, running into shop owners that have never been a technician, right? Like, be able to run a shop without being able to step in and get your hands dirty and kind of in the trenches, I guess they call it, right? So that's really interesting because I've read obviously a lot of your content, and it's all good content, and it's like, so you can look at it from the outside in and still have really good perspective without needing to be on the front lines in a sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like being an outsider does help a lot. I feel like it gives me, because I don't have like the challenges of being a shop owner under my belt, or the challenges of being a tech or a service advisor, or any of those like things that you guys have dealt with, or even some of the stigma of just dealing with like certain types of customers, et cetera. I'm just kind of way outside with the objective view. Like, okay, I'm looking at it basically as a business. Like, how does it need to run as a business? How do the people need to be successful in a business kind of environment? So I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, that's just like sparking my curiosity,
Yeah.
I love the different perspectives, man, and it's something I can't get, right? Like, so how do you look at it when do you analyze a shot based on? I mean, what are your kind of key aspects when you're going in to kind of write something up or analyze something like that?
Yeah, so I'm always looking at it from top to bottom. So you look at the shop owner, you kind of look at the shop owner, their leadership style, how they communicate, how they govern things, the processes they build, how their teams respond to them, their attitude about customers and customer service, their attitude about team leadership. And then you look at like each kind of, you start walking down like, the advisors, how they feel about customers, their, what kind of things motivate them? Like, what do they read certain books? Do they listen to certain things, podcasts? Like what gets them excited to come to work every day? Cause I know it's a hard job to have to be customer facing and dealing with people who are, maybe they're frustrated because their cars aren't working, or they can't get service at a certain time, or they've got to wait for parts or whatever. So, how do you deal with that? Like how do you develop the patience to do what you do every single day and not go home dejected or discouraged? And then I look at like kind of the harmony between the advisor and the technician, because they have to work together, and they have to work well together, like, and communicate between each other and kind of find a common language to speak, where the advisor can convey to the customer what the technician is saying with accuracy. And
Man,
then, I go back to
you're just nailing all the heads.
And then the same with the technician. The technician has to have a level of communication where they can take something that's super technical, like auto repair or whatever the case may be, and break it down into a layman's language and say, hey, this is why your car is unsafe. As opposed to like, well, you need a new water. Well, why do I need a new water pump? What's the purpose of that? And they can break that down and say, well, you need the water pump because it does this, that, and the third. And, if you continue to drive on a particular bad part, these are your outcomes. Or so they can really break it down for the customer, so that, and instill that trust. So I think, looking at it from that perspective, and then when you put it all together and put it forward facing, like for me, as someone who I came with lots of shop, I've had cars, I've gone to shops, and I've always gotten frustrated at the fact that I take my car to a shop and then I'm like, okay, it's probably nothing big. And then you get a laundry list of things that need to be done. You're like, come on, really? Do I need to have all that done? And then when you go spend time in the shop and you see really what they look at, how they look at it, how they approach automotive repair, how they approach automotive safety. They're not thinking about just your vehicle, but they're thinking about the fact that you're driving a vehicle on the road with other people. So there's a lot of factors that go into there that the consumer doesn't think about. The consumer sometimes just thinks that, you're just trying to get money out of me. It's like, well, it's not necessarily I'm trying to get money. I'm trying to make sure that, one, you and your family are safe, but two, that you're safe motorist on the road so that you're not causing problems for other motorists.
Right. It's like that stigma, right, in the auto industry.
Yeah.
Like, we're all crooks. We're all trying to rip everybody off. And
Yeah,
you
but
get that list of stuff, and it's like, you don't understand it's coming from a place of compassion, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, do it if you want to, but I put it out there so I don't, I can cover my ass. Like, hey, these are all the things I found. I don't want you going somewhere else and be like, why didn't you tell me that stuff was bad, right?
Right.
And so it's really difficult because a lot of advisors, especially they come new into the industry, they don't want to have that conversation. Oh man, that's all they came in for because they had a coolant leak. You know, all they need is a water pump, right? And I love that how do you call it, connotation, where it's like, well, you don't really need anything because you drove it in, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, do I really need all that stuff? Like, no, you don't need anything. Like, you drove it here and you can drive it home, but I don't know how much farther than that you're gonna get. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's tough, man, and it's until, like you said, you get more involved with other shop owners that are doing the same thing, more people that are professionals in the industry that are doing the same thing, and you start realizing, oh, it's okay. Like, this is what we're doing. We're trying to provide a service. We're not just looking to pad the bottom line. It's a great benefit of that outcome, right? Of course, then we can buy new tools. We can pay our guys more, and as long as you have that right mindset, you do the right things with the money that comes from doing the right thing to begin with, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
And
it's very similar going to the doctor and getting your labs done, and the doctor
mhm.
comes back and just talks to you about your labs. And it's like, yeah, you might need this or that, and it's
But
kind of
you're like,
it's a
I
very
feel
similar
fine.
thing. Yeah, exactly. I feel if I came here, I'm okay.
Yeah, I
It's like,
walked in here. Like, what are you talking about? What do I need? Yeah, and
yeah,
catching that stuff before it becomes a big problem.
exactly. It's the exact same thing. It's like, okay, you're pre-diabetic. Let's just put you on, let's put you on a different diet. Blah blah blah. Oh, but I don't want to change my diet. Well, if you don't change your diet, this is what happens. Same thing with the car. Well, I don't want to change this now, but if you don't change this now, here's what's going to happen in the next, 3,000, 6,000 miles.
Yeah, and the correlation between the medical and the automotive seems to be a big one. It's one thing I struggle with because people can kind of fix themselves. Cars can't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not
Very
going to get
true.
better, and a
That's
lot of
true.
technicians get into that loop too. Like, being a transmission rebuilder, I've had a lot of guys come through and they'll rebuild it, put it in, and it'll have some weird shift problem, right? And they'll just keep driving it. Like, God, it'll go away. Like, it's not going to go away. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to get any better. Like, this is a problem, and we got to get back in and fix it because cars aren't people and they won't like heal themselves.
That's
So
true.
it doesn't get better. That noise is just going to get worse. Um,
Yeah.
but you nailed a lot of stuff there at the beginning, like the relationship with the advisors, and like, and trying to keep that interpersonal relationship and managing employees. And there's so much there that to unpack, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
such a big part, and that was all like, but then how do we do that, right? That's the thing I struggle with, and I talk to a lot of people that struggle with. How do I get my advisors, my technicians, to like have a better relationship? How do I get those answers? Because you ask them, like,
Yeah.
and how many times you run across somebody that you're maybe doing an article for, and you ask these questions, and they're like, oh, I don't know. That's got to be a common answer, right? And like, how
Yeah.
do you draw that out of them?
It does happen, where people, aren't always sure how to get the most out of people or not. But I think the shop owner who has or who does, I think those are the ones who are relying on their one-on-one meetings. They're the ones who prioritize those weekly meetings, those daily meetings, those one-to-ones. They prioritize like just even outings, like doing things together as a staff and a team. Because I think you get the most out of people when they can not only work together well but play together well. So they do, like, they'll do the outings, whether they go bowling or axe throwing or something. Just finding that way where it's not the shirt, the buttoned up work culture, but it's like, okay, I'll let my hair down a little bit. We're having a little fun. We're having some drinks, having some wings, throwing some axes, and laughing and having a good time. And then before you know it, okay, yeah, the advisor and the tech see each other is like, okay, we're coworkers, but we're human beings too here. We both have a job we want to do. We both have families we want to feed. How do we work better together?
Yeah, yeah, that's what it is too. Because a lot of the time, it all starts kind of at the top, right? And I hate
Yeah.
referring to myself as like being at the top, but you get the leadership or the management, and it goes down to the advisor, goes to the technician, and I don't. I mean, look at it in the flow that way is not really it, because it's more of a circle, right? But
Yeah.
just for the example of like, this example is like the advisor is pushing the technician in a sense, right? And this is like a problem I see every day in my shop is there's an expectation that the advisor is given to the client, And ultimately, clients at the top, really, like they're the ones that pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
So they say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm gonna get your car back to you by noon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. That way you can go pick up your kids." So now the advisor's got this expectation to deliver, and then they have to translate that to the technician. Hey, you know, you're gonna have this done by noon. You're gonna have it done by 1, and it's looked upon like an attack. They feel attacked, right? Man,
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can. It'll be done when it's done. Like if I get it done sooner, I would. And I hear that so much. Right? It's like this weird dichotomy. Is like they're like fighting each other, but they both win if that vehicle's delivered fixed, by that timeline. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
like this is not an attack on you, man. The advisor's just trying to set an expectation so you guys can both win together. Like, why don't you
Yeah.
make it a game? Like, yeah, man, let's do this. Let's get this thing done. Let's crush it, right? But instead, it's looked upon like you can't tell me what to do, and the ego comes in, right? And it's like, well, if I get it done sooner, of course I would. You get this attitude, and then the advisor takes that attitude and then breathes that back to the customer, and they're like, he's trying his best, and it's like the whole process is just thrown out the window because of just that weird, dichotomy. And building a better relationship where they're more friends, right? In a
Yeah.
sense, and they can see it as a game and a team effort. Man, that is so hard. It's easy to sit here and talk about it, but man, it is so difficult to
Yeah.
try to make that a thing. But the meetings, and I think one thing I was making a mistake was is doing the meetings is like a like a prize, or like, hey, we met our sales goal, let's all go out together. And I think that's a loss. I think that's the wrong way to do it. I think you just got to do it out of repetition. Hey, every month we're going out.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we win or lose, we're going out together and we're going to go do something fun. And instead of doing it as like a sales goal, you know, party or whatever you want to call it, it's like, let's just all go out no matter what, and just keep
Yeah.
building that culture. What's something that you've noticed? I mean, you've probably talked to a lot of shop owners. Is there a certain pattern or something that you see that you can easily recognize? Man, this guy is definitely successful without even knowing his shop.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Trust. They trust their people. 100%. Like they trust the people they hire. I think that's the number one thing. Like when a shop owner is willing to turn the reins over or let things go and say, "Oh yeah, my shop manager is taking care of this," or my advisors are taking care of that, or my technicians are, like they have a full trust in the people that they hire. I think that's the number one thing, where they don't worry about things falling through the cracks. They don't worry about processes breaking because they've built the processes. The processes have been built, they've been tested, they're tried and true, and they work. And so they're able to step out and say, "Yeah, the shop can run whether I'm in the shop or not."
Yeah, that's a tough place to get to.
It is. It's a very hard place. It is
Man,
a hard place, and I think the hardest part is that when building a business, like oftentimes for people who are bootstrapping it, it's just about getting the doors open, right? It's about twisting the lock, getting the doors open, opening the bays, and just starting work and making that money. Because it's an
yeah,
investment. It's an investment to be a business owner. So you just start with what you know. Your biggest strength most of the time you're coming into it as a technician is fixing cars. So what do you want to do? You want to fix cars, make money, build the business that way. And I mean, the best way, of course, always is to start with a plan, build your processes, have everything kind of laid out. But it's not always easy. It's not always the way that you can do it. Because maybe your circumstances dictate the fact that you can't do it. Because maybe you left a shop, on some sort of terms. Maybe you didn't like the way shop was running, so you decided, hey, I can do it myself. I can do better on my own. You go out on your own, and you don't, have the time to put the processes together.
and it's
But
not,
I
it's
think
not as good as you thought it was going to be.
yeah, it's a little harder than you thought, because there's a lot more to running a business than making money. Like making money is part of it, and it's almost a byproduct of running a good business.
Absolutely, man. Yeah,
you
you start
know,
learning that very quickly.
yeah, you learn that pretty fast, and I think that's the challenge, is like having to go back and do year one processes when you're 3 or 4 years in, and say, okay, I'm 3 or 4 years into the shop. We're making some money. Now I've got to go back and put these processes in place. What does hiring need to look like? What does onboarding need to look like? What does the flow of the service desk and the customer journey need to look like? What do our relationships need to look like? Interpersonal, and then within the space of customers, et cetera. So you got to go back and do those year one processes and put those all under you. And that's why you see a lot of, that's what a lot of coaching companies end up doing in the business is they catch shops in that place where they've been in business for a while and they're realizing, oh, I'm making money, but things aren't moving forward. I've kind of got that place of stagnation. And that place of stagnation always hits when you hit the top of your processes.
Man, nailed that one for sure. That's like hit home for that one. Yeah, the going backwards thing, man. And I don't. That's exactly what it feels like too, even though it's not. Like that's,
Yeah.
it's like the analogy of shooting a bow and arrow. Like
Yeah.
you got to pull the bow back, aim, and then you can release it and you propel forward, right?
Yeah. It's the same
It's
thing.
not like a step back. It's just taking that kind of view. Like, hold on a second, I missed a few things along the way.
It's like a natural progression to a shop. It's kind of like, if you've ever messed with like the stock market, me and my friend we used to like flip stocks for fun, and like you watch the stock market just go up and go up, and it's like this thing shot up for no reason at all, and we can't figure out why. And you realize, well, after a while, it's going to have to come back down and fill that entire gap that it shot up. And it's the same thing, you're with a business. The business will shoot up, make money, do well, and it could go at a meteoric rate and go really fast. And like, wow, I'm really successful. I'm doing super well. My business is going great. But then you just got to come back and fill all that gap at some point. You got to fill like all that gap with process, with right people, right hiring, etc., marketing. So you have
The
to go
not
back
fun
and fill
stuff.
that gap. And then now you got back to your correct valuation as a shop where you can say,
Yeah,
I'm doing well all the way across the board. There's no holes in the bucket.
that's an awesome way of looking at it. Because it is too, and that's the part that everyone gets stuck at. And would you put a timeline on that? What do you see with businesses as far as that kind of timeline, where they get to a point? Have you been able to correlate with that, something like that, like a 5 year or 6 year span? Then all of a sudden they kind of hit their ceiling and they can't realize why they can't break through, and you got to go back and do all that.
I think it's individual to the owner because each individual owner has his own structure, his own organization style, his own way of doing business, and so or her, and then once they get to that point where they've done everything to the best of their individual ability, that's when they start to stagnate because it's like you don't know what you don't know. That the analogy that we always use, you don't know what you don't know. You finally get to that point where, okay, why aren't things going up anymore? And it's like, well, it's because you got to put the foundation under it now.
Yeah, it's kind of like a house of cards, right? In a sense.
Yeah, in a sense, it's just that it just needs the foundation needs to be supported. So you have to, like you said, you have to go backwards to go forward. Essentially, go back and say, okay, well, where are the processes broken, or where do the processes need to be strengthened, or where are there processes that we've never had processes, and
Yeah,
get those aligned.
and it's unfortunate too. The ego comes in, but a lot of the time they just don't want to go back, right?
Yeah,
And that part just, I don't want to go back, and I don't want to do that kinds of stuff. And look how successful I am, and it takes a huge blow or something extremely stressful or like a huge employee turnover, or like they just get to the point where it's like they're tapping out.
yeah,
Now can you help me? And do
yeah,
you run across that a lot? Like that's got to be a thing, because that's where I got to, right? And it just seems like
yeah,
everyone, they get to their breaking point, right? Like I can't take the stress anymore, and everybody along the way is kind of said what you said. Hey man, go back and do some processes, get some procedures. I don't need to do that. I'm not wasting my time on that. I don't need to do that. All I need to worry about is cash flow, car count. That's all I need to worry about. And then they get to their breaking point, and it's like I'm ready to close the doors, and it's like it's so simple.
yeah. And I think that's what one of the things that because you always hear and I'm not discounting because I don't know as I'm not a shop owner, but you always hear like, well, I'm too busy, just the idea of being busy,
Yeah,
having too much to do. And it's like, as a business owner, man, you have to be a perpetual learner. You just have to be constantly learning stuff, constantly learning stuff, constantly learning stuff, whether it's you going to classes a lot, whether you're reading books, listening to podcasts, you got to continually like be thinking about what's next for the business. What's next, because the here and now is the here and now. I mean, if it's running, it's running, but it's like, okay, well, how do I keep it running? How do I sustain it for the next year, the next 2, the next 5? And so continuing to just teach yourself and learn. And I think that's the benefit of going to conferences, making that time. Yeah, it's, you may have to make some adjustments for that, or, of course, there's financial ramifications of shutting down the shop and going to a conference, but asking yourself, okay, can we afford not to shut down the shop for a day? One day's worth of the shop being shut down, maybe, hypothetically, let's say it's $1,000 to shut the shop down for a day. I know it's much more than that, but say it's $1,000. Is it worth the $1,000 if you're reinforcing knowledge into your people and they're learning new skills and they're getting fired up about what they're learning and they're bringing that back to the shop and getting other people excited? Now all of a sudden everyone is like, they're energized again. They're ready to do great work again. I think I've always seen that at conferences, and you walk around a conference and you meet people, you talk to them, and just they're so energized because they want to learn, they want to grow, they want their careers to be successful, and they oftentimes love where they're at. It's like if you've got all those things where people are just that excited, you gotta have to feed the machine.
That's like the magic, right?
Yeah.
Almost like that's everyone's looking for the secret sauce, or like kind of like the silver bullet, or the one like, how do I fix it, right? What's the answer, right? And there's a lot, but there's a secret thing that you were just talking about that no one really talks about, because you can't quantify it. You can't write it down. It's like, what is that? What is that magic? Like, how does that help me? How much better are my people going to be? Like, what does that look like on the backside? It's like, it doesn't look like anything other than everyone's motivated and everyone's bought into the process, and you can't put a number on that. You can't justify that.
No. And the thing is like, you don't know the impact it has when you invest in people. I was at STX back in April, and I talked to a guy who had been a technician for 29 years. And he worked at a small shop most of the time. And he said, and he had recently, a couple of years, had moved into another shop. And this is his first time going to a conference. And he said, yeah, in 29 years of being a tech, I've never been to a conference. I've never had anybody invest in my education. And he said, this is the most amazing gift that someone's ever given me as a shop owner.
Wow. It's amazing. And it's kind of a new age now, though. I feel like a lot of that old, the old kind of ways.
Yeah.
You get to work and you just put your head down and you grind away, and you stay in your little pocket. I just don't think that's going to work anymore.
No.
And that's how a lot of us were raised. That's how I was raised in a shop.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so difficult because you want to use your past experience. You raised, right? And your parents instill values in you, and you use those values as you go through life. Then you want to raise your kids the same way. And I mean, it's the same thing, I guess, with raising kids in this day and age too. Like you got to go outside of your comfort zone a lot. And it's one thing I've noticed, like everything that I learned growing up in a shop, or, learning in a shop, it's like out the window. I gotta learn all new stuff. And unless I'm around all the other people in the industry that are doing it differently, how am I supposed to know anything different?
Yeah.
You're like, how come this isn't working? It worked for me. This is what my boss used to tell me. How come no one's responding the way I did? It's like, because it's different now. There's different ways of doing it.
Yeah, and there's no shame in unlearn, relearn. There's no shame in saying, okay, what I've done in the past doesn't work. Either my skills or my leadership or however is antiquated, does not work today. There's nothing wrong with saying, okay, well, how do I need to lead for tomorrow? Because and invariably your people will teach you that. They teach you how to lead because it's like you're governing people, so it's more about them than it is about you. So your leadership style should be more adaptive to the people that are around, who you're around most of the time.
Yeah, if you're willing to listen.
That's true. Yeah, if you're willing to listen.
But then sometimes you listen and they don't tell you what there actually is going on either. So it's like, well, and
it doesn't mean that you're easily influenced, that you're going to do everything. You're going to take every suggestion, but you can acknowledge that you heard somebody and say, yeah, that's a good suggestion. I'm not sure if we'll be able to act upon that, but I continue to feed me more suggestions. I like hearing that. I'm an idea guy. Let me hear it.
Yeah. I want to circle back to like fill in the gaps there, because I think that's really, really impactful. That's huge for a lot that are kind of good, and no one wants to take that step back. But what are ways that you've seen other shop owners kind of take that process and get that building first, right? Because at first, the only thing, like you said, is just getting cars. We need cash flow.
Yeah.
I don't have time to write processes. I don't have time for all that stuff. I can't fire these people that aren't being productive because then I don't have anybody. Like, so they're willing to lower their standards just to keep the cash flow coming in instead of just saying, nope, I'm not, my standards here. I'm not lowering it to here. Right. And so I'm going to build processes that put my standards up here. I'm not going to allow these people in my business unless they're willing to meet that. And if I'm standing here by myself, not making any money, I'm going to be okay. That's the scariest thing in the world for me to think about. I'd rather just have a warm body in here, that at least can get a car fixed a day so I can at least appease one client. Is that something, a pattern that you've seen or anything you can insight on that?
Yeah, that does happen. I think because I think when you start thinking about labor shortages, tech shortages, and you constantly hear about that, it can put that scarcity into your mind that if I let this tech go, there's there's possibly nobody who's going to walk through the door and want to work.
Right.
Because you hear that too. You hear, well, we have a generation of people who don't want to work. So you start hearing all these negative things around you all the time. Labor shortage, people don't want to work. There's nobody wants to do automotive. And so all of a sudden your scope starts to narrow, you get tunnel vision, and you think, I've got to put up with whatever, I've got to just deal with it. And that's not true. It's not true at all. You don't have to deal with it. There are people who do want to work. It does take time to find people, to hire the right people. I mean, sometimes you have to go through a lot of interviews to find that right person, but the right people are attracted to the right environment. So you also have to look at, is my environment attractive? Is this a place where somebody wants to come and put down some roots and be a tech for me or be an advisor for me for the long haul? And those are questions you have to honestly ask yourself. Am I creating an environment where people will value working here too? But I've seen it happen a couple of ways. We did a story a couple of years ago, and I don't the name of the shop owner escapes me, and this is kind of the moderate example, but he's in New Jersey. But what he did was wasn't governing his shop by KPIs at all. He was just like, it was just all willy nilly, like, just, okay, we're making money, we got car count, blah blah blah, and then he realized, he wasn't making as much money as he could. Like, he just realized, he came to the realization that this can't be right. Like, I'm making money, I've got the car count, but why am I not more successful? So he got with a coach, sat down, looked over his P&Ls, looked at his numbers, and started governing the shop by data, and shot up. Started hitting his goals and going beyond that because he started looking at the data and governing by data and not governing by what he sees from his eyes or how he felt. And it changed the entire shop. And he's been able to get himself out of his shop. So he took that time and was able to do everything right by data, teach his team how to do it by data, and then pull himself out of his shop, which was like, the ultimate goal for him. And so that's one example. An extreme example was with Tim Swinkowski, and he's in Plymouth, Minnesota with Stellar Auto Works. But he got to a point where he realized his leadership was horrible. He said, I was a terrible leader, and he let his team go. He let everybody go and start doing it himself right around COVID time. He just let everybody go and just said, okay, this is an opportunity for me just to rebuild the entire thing from the ground up. So he was turning wrenches by himself for a while, had a part-timer come in and helping him. And he's since, been able to rebuild his team, rebuild everything, kind of come up with, that whole gap refill we talked about. Like, okay, I'm going to create processes for everything now. Processes for hiring the right people, processes for how we do things, processes for how we do customer service, have somebody in here dedicated just to that. And I'm going to hire people like, foremen, people just to govern every aspect of the business so that I don't have to do it all myself. And since then, he's become very successful with his shop. So those are two examples, but it all goes back to the leader of the shop admitting that they, okay, this is on me, taking personal responsibility for it and saying, okay, I have not been able to get the team, get my people where I said that I could do it. Now I've got to look within myself and figure out how to do that.
Oh man. Yeah, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
the inwards look. And then the accountability, right? Because you can have all the processes in the world, you can write everything down, and then you have these one-on-one meetings or these group team meetings and you tell everyone, then you're like, okay, everyone knows now, we're good. No, you can't just tell someone one thing, right? Like, when's the last time you said one thing to anybody and they just took it in and that was it, right? So reinforcing and having
Yeah.
the accountability, right? Like, this is our standard. And then when
Mm-hmm.
something goes outside of those lines, stopping for a minute and saying, hey, so remember we talked? Is this something that's in the scope of what we talked about?
Yeah.
Or is this not? Right? Like, so if we're $1 million facility, do you think this, what you're doing right now, is in that spectrum of being $1 million facility? Is that something that you would walk into another shop that's doing, right? Like, where's the accountability line? And constantly being able to like reinforce that over and over and over. It's a very hard thing for me to do. But it's something that has to be done. And I think you have that breaking point, like you said, with him, and I'm going to fire everybody and start new. I don't know if you need to do that necessarily, but it's like, but at that point in time, if you're going to spend all the time with those systems and processes, like you need to constantly reinforce that. Otherwise, they're never going to, like, you can't just tell them one time and expect it to work. I thought that's how it worked for sure for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, whatever doesn't work for kids doesn't work for anybody, you know. Because I mean, with children, you have to you're constantly reinforcing and reinforcing and
Yeah.
reinforcing. I think it's the same with people. It's like, I think that's the beauty of like readbacks. You know, when you tell someone something, all right, read it back to me. You know, hey, all right, make sure we both understand what we're coming from, so we're both on the same page.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it too. Those are like those little things that you don't really think about, right? Because you're
Yeah.
so bought in as the owner. I'm already bought into the process. I got a coach. We talk for an hour, over and over and over. This is like I'm ready to go. I'm spending all this money. Like, I'm bought into the process, and then I expect me to just one time verbalize it, and everyone's like, got it, boss. I'm on it. Like, and that level of buy-in is just not there. And it's a tough thing to try to explain that, right? Because I'm not a coach,
Yeah.
and so someone has a much better way of explaining it to me than I ever will be able to regurgitate it.
Yeah, no,
So
it's true.
I can't get them to buy in. I got to be a salesman, and I can't do it.
Yeah, and it's it's something you see on sports teams, where the coach has the philosophy, he knows where he wants to take the team, and it's always finding who's the first person I can get to, who is the person I can influence to really influence the rest of the team. And I
Yeah.
think you got to find that one person who really is bought into it to be that influence on the team. I see it like my son. He started playing football this year, first year playing football, middle school. And so, he's out there and they're doing drills, like the teams all together, they're doing drills. And so the snap count is 2. So the coach is like, all right, we go on 2, and they're all lined up across the field, just practicing the snap count. And so the coach will say, hut. And if someone jumps off sides, he backs it up. So like, now you're going to run. Now we're going from you running 10 yards to you're running 20 now. And every time somebody jumps off sides, he has 10 more yards to their sprint. And he keeps doing it and doing it. And eventually what you started to hear is the kids started coaching each other. Stop jumping off sides. Stop jumping. Hey guys, stop jumping. It's on 2. And then they got to the point where they all just started, they coached each other. And before the end of practice, they weren't having to run 90 yards. They figured it out, worked with each other, made sure that each other checked each other down before they dropped into their stances. And they didn't jump until the coach said, hut, hut. It wasn't just the hut. And so no one was jumping off sides. And it's the same thing, I think, when building a culture, is that, if you find that person on the team that just checks everybody, hey guys, no, this is our standard. Here's how we're going to do it. And it becomes an infectious thing where the next person grabs it and the next person grabs it.
Yeah. Holding each other accountable.
Yeah.
One person can't hold everyone accountable. I think that's one thing I'm beginning to realize.
Yeah, it's a team effort. You just find those people who really are bought in, who really love the work they do, and who really want to ultimately see the business succeed. Want to do good for the community.
Yeah, it reminds me of an experiment, and I don't know if you heard about that one, but was it with it was with like chimpanzees or something, some sort of animal test where they impacted a certain behavior, right, on one particular one, and then they removed him, and then that behavior translated, and then they did that 3 or 4 times, and before they knew it, like, it was that behavior continued in that group pod even without that first initial one there, so they had no idea why they were doing it. And I can't remember exactly what the experiment was, but
I know what you're talking
you know
about.
what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah.
I've heard that one. Yeah.
And it's like, it was like they got a reward and then they removed the reward and then they removed the original, and then it was like it just continued. That pattern kept it continuing, and like they didn't even know why they were doing it. It was just like,
Yeah, they took all the control animals out, and it was all the
right,
variable. And then they were following that entire model, and like you said, they hadn't even been impacted by the experiment at all.
right, and
They
it was like
just
the pattern just continued, yeah.
yeah
And it's not like a primate thing, like not like we have a bunch of animals out in the shop, but it's the same thing. We're all like we all want to do the right thing for the right reasons, and I miss that a lot too. I feel like if I'm too strict or if I say something to discipline them, they're just gonna leave, right? Like we're all people pleasers,
yeah
especially in the automotive industry, as you probably noticed too. Like even though we got this weird bad stigma in the auto industry that we're gonna rip people off, like we just want to please people. We want to make them happy. We want to fix their cars, and we do that with our people too. We just if they make a mistake, we're like, well, I've made that mistake too. It's okay. Instead of like setting the standard, like, hey, this is not acceptable. How do we not make that happen again? That's tough, right? And like to hold someone accountable like that and come from a place of fear, and you think they're just gonna leave. Like if you discipline someone, they're just gonna leave. And like that team analogy you said, everyone's there on that team because they want to be there. Like they want to play football. So you make them hold each other accountable. They're like, hey man, you're making this harder for me, and I want to have a good time. And I think we lose that because it's work. You know, if that makes sense. Like you lose that thing of like, hey, we all want to be here and do this thing. Like we want to fix cars. And if we don't, then they should probably leave anyway. Like if your heart's not in this, then you need to go.
yeah no, that's very true. And I think when it comes to that, like you have to be very very tactful. Yeah, in this day and age, when you're kind of to correct the behavior, they can a lot of times you just kind of have to disguise it as teaching. Hey, I noticed that this happened yesterday. Do you want me to show you the right way to do that, or you want me to help you understand whatever it may be? Because I think that's you got to figure out a way. Not, I mean, because we've gone a long way from that place of just do as I say. Here's what you did wrong, blah blah blah, and it's just coming down on people.
Yep.
We've kind of gone away from that day of like the tough hard coaching talks.
The way you and I were raised.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've gone away from that. It's more of really like we've got to you got to mix it in with like they talk about like the praise sandwich. Okay, hey man, you've done a great job on these cars, man. I did notice yesterday that this happened. Definitely please pay more careful attention to that because we're out to do our best possible job for our customers. Here's our mission, our mantra right here on the board. Let's try to live up to that. And if you have any questions, man, let me know.
I love that, and that little part there of the mission is reinforcing why, and I think that's missed a lot too because it comes from a place of emotion. So you're just trying to go through the movements like, hey, I like you being here and thank you for showing up on time every day, even though that's a given, right? Like I don't want to praise him for that because like you're supposed to show for it, but just that little compliment and then saying, hey, but this is what you did wrong, so don't do that again. But then using that opportunity to say, and this is why it was wrong because it leads to A, B, and C. Because this is the culture. Because this is what we want to experience. We want to give to our clients. And then does that make sense, right? So let's try to find a way to not let that happen again. And it's really difficult in the heat of the moment, in the middle of the day, right? When there's like 1,000 things going on to like stop and like go have that conversation and then like break it down like a child to them. Man, this is a grown ass adult. What am I breaking it down like this for? But it's so true though. Like you have to do that. And it's like, man, I'm paying him, $100,000 a year and I got to talk to him like a child. He's got 3 kids of his own. What are you talking about? And it's like, well, that's just what it is,
Yeah, because I mean, you're holding them accountable to the standard, not you, right? You're holding them accountable. This is the standard that we set, so I'm holding you accountable to the standard that we all have. It's not about me, the shop owner. I'm not, and it's something that you teach your children. It's like I'm not upset at you. I'm upset at the behavior. You're a great kid, and I love you. I just don't like that behavior, and I want to make sure we correct that behavior. And it's the same thing with employees. Being able to separate you, man. You're a phenomenal worker, man. I love having you here. So it's not you. It's just we made a mistake here, and we got to fix that.
Yeah, that's a good one because that's the problem there, right?
Yeah,
just trying to separate those two because you separate in your own mind, but you're not like verbalizing it.
Yeah, and you have to be able to verbalize that because people do internalize stuff quickly. I mean, our minds can be our worst enemy. You know,
I think they are. Every day.
our minds can really just betray us in the worst possible ways. Because it's like, you know, you're thinking, oh God, the shop owner is mad at me and he's upset with it. And it's like, no, he's not upset with you. He just wants the problem solved and he wants you to take care of it.
Yeah.
It's nothing personal, nothing personal
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. It's like, it's not personal, it's business.
Yeah.
And I think that gets thrown around too loosely. I think
Yeah.
that's one of those things that gets thrown around, and without having a conversation like this or like truly breaking that down, you don't quite understand what that means. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
like this loose term that's thrown out there. Like, what do you mean? Of course it's personal. I'm here 10 hours a day. I'm here more than I'm at home, right? Like everything that happens in the shop is personal. So I think it's tough because
It is.
there's so much more to that mantra than like it's not personal,
Mm-hmm.
it's business, right? Because it's like this is my livelihood. This is
Yeah.
the technicians that work here. It's their livelihood. It's what they love to do. They're passionate about it. They love doing it. And for someone to come up and say, "Hey, you're not doing it right," they do take it very personal. And it's like impossible to separate those two and say, "No, it's just business, man." No, it's not just business. It's very personal to me. This is what supports my wife and my kids, and I love doing it. And I want to make sure these cars are safe for the community. And so it becomes a very personal thing. I think it needs to be, in a sense, So I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to break that down to make that make sense to anybody when they say it's not personal, it's business. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a tough one to just throw out there.
Yeah, but I think that onus is on the technician because it's a reflection of your work ethic. Do you want to be the best technician you can be? That's what you told me, right? You told me when I hired you that you're the best. That you want to be the best you can be. You want to grow. You want to learn. This is a teaching moment we're in right now. It's nothing. So do take it personally. Say, okay, well, how can I improve this? How can I be better the next time I see X, Y, and Z situations show up? So yeah, I think you can take it personally in that regard, where you're
Yeah,
thinking of it as a way of how is this going to make me a better tech now that I've got this constructive criticism from my boss, as
yeah,
opposed to seeing it. And I think some of that is that from a leadership standpoint, as a shop leader, shop owner, you've got to be like the encourager in chief. You've got to be that guy who's visible, who's on any given day just dropping positive comments on people. You got to build that bank account with people. So you're talking to them, you say, "Hey man, great job on that Acura today, man," or "Hey man, I saw you in there, man. You were going at it today, man. Great job. I appreciate having you here." Just every day, just reminding people that they're valuable to you, they're valuable to the team, and they're valuable to the community because they're serving our community and they're keeping people safe. So I think just constantly just reinforcing and reminding people of that. Because then when you do say something, when you do have to have that hard talk, you've built so much equity, in those compliments. You've built so much equity and praise and helping that person feel worthy of being there that it's a drop in the bucket at that point, as
yeah.
opposed to
The
as
Jocko
opposed to
Williams thing, huh?
as opposed to the opposite end where it's like, okay, if you're not a visible leader and I don't see you very often and I'll only see you when I make mistakes, that's something I probably will take a lot more personally. I'll be more
Mm-hmm.
dejected by that because I'm thinking, okay, you only come around when I make mistakes. Whenever I see you in the shop, I'm thinking I made a mistake, somebody around me made a mistake, and you're only here to correct us.
Yeah. I love that analogy. Is that the Jocko Williams thing when you're trying to build that bank?
Build the bank. It's just
No.
funny. No, that one actually comes from what's his name? The guy from it's Gary. The guy from Five Love Languages. That's where that one comes from.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
Gary
heard. Yeah.
Chapman. Gary Chapman.
Oh,
Five
okay.
Love Languages. Man, we're just building that. Yeah, just building that love bank.
Oh, that's a different way to. Yeah, I know Jocko Williams has one where he talks about building that bank of extreme leadership and walking around and constantly trying to build that bank up. So then when you have something negative, you're taking a little bit out, but then you add back to it, right? And you're
Yeah.
constantly like that battle of like making sure that the bank is never empty,
Yeah.
right? So you want to make sure you got a good account going on in there, so you can give them that positive reinforcement or that correction. Takes a little bit out of the bank, then you start building it back up, and you make sure you never do too many negatives because then the bank's going to go to zero. I don't know if you've seen the master class from Jocko
No, I
Williams,
haven't
but
seen. I haven't
he
seen
talks
that.
exactly about that what you just said. That's
Oh
like
wow.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, because what do they say? It takes like for every negative, you need to counteract that with like 4 positives.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to take a lot of withdrawals because there's fees that come with the withdrawals. but you can
Yeah.
add all the deposits you want. But every time you take a withdrawal, then you get a fee attached to that. So it's
Yeah.
offset, I guess you could say. Yeah, it's one of the things too is like I didn't know this is what it was going to be, right? Like as a technician turned shop owner, you're like, oh, I'll just fix cars. I'll hire some people that have the same mindset as me, and we're just going to fix cars. We're going to barbecue on Friday. We're going to make a ton of money. Everyone's going to be happy, and like the thought of like this is ownership, the conversation we're having, that is what being the leader is, being the owner of the shop is. And I think that's what's missed. And like going back to your gap analogy, I think that's where that gap comes in because you just don't realize or you don't want to do that, right? Like, what? This isn't like what I signed up for. I thought we were all just going to have a good time and then we wouldn't have to deal with my boss anymore, right? Like, I left the shop because it was like he was always correcting me and always saying the things I didn't want to hear. And I just wanted to put my head down and fix cars. So I opened a shop so I could hire more people and we can all just get these cars fixed. And now I've become the person that I was trying to get away from.
Yeah. It's that thing they always say, don't become, you become the person that you hate,
Yeah. You become your parents. Yeah. You become your
Yeah.
dad. Like what's going on here? This is not why I signed up to do this stuff. And you just slowly evolve and you realize okay, so this is wrong. So I need to do this now. And then, okay, this isn't going right. So I got to do this. And then all these pieces start coming together and you look yourself in the mirror and you're like, huh, I've become exactly who I was trying to get away from.
It is. It's kind of like
I get it now. Can I just go back to my job now? Because now I understand, and I'd rather just go do that now because I don't have to deal with all this stuff. It's just a crazy evolution in the cycle.
It is. Yeah.
And that cycle too is like talking about like the turnover and that kind of stuff. And I feel like without having your high standards, I don't want to go like revert way back here, but like the standards of the shop and keeping the wrong people on staff might be the reason why you're not getting the right people in. You know what I mean? And I've one thing I've noticed from successful people, especially multi-shop owners, is that's the construct. It's like I am not allowing them in my shop. I'd rather have nobody. And it's like, what? Well, then what are you going to do? Like, well, I'll just wait. If I go a week, a week, 2 weeks, whatever happens, but I'm not allowing someone in my shop that's not to my standards. I'm not allowing that to happen. And it seems so cutthroat, right? Like, what do you mean? Like, you're not even going to give someone a chance? Like, no. And then before you know it, they build this foundation, they build this shop, and they're super successful, And you almost got to wonder, like, well, if I just allow anybody in, that's going to not attract the people I want in. Does that make sense? Like, so by allowing that in there and just trying to get by, like, and you think you're doing the right thing because you have money coming to the bank and you're getting cars fixed for the most part, it's like you're not creating an attractive environment for the right people, and you're not allowing yourself to build those processes that you need. And that's a very scary thing to think about. Yeah. But it's almost like that's one thing I've noticed. I don't know if you've kind of noticed the same pattern, but I've noticed that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to ask yourself, what costs more, not having enough talent in the shop or having the wrong talent in the shop,
Yeah.
Because the wrong talent can be detrimental to the business, can erode the entire business. If you get the wrong person with the wrong attitude, they chase people away, leave a bad taste in people's mouths. People don't want to come to work, or they're not excited about coming to work because they don't want to work with a particular person. Versus just, okay, we've got a great harmonious shop. We're one man, one woman short. Can we make it work? And it's like anything else. You overcompensate. Like if you break your arm, your rest of your body overcompensates. Your left side starts to overcompensate for what the right can't do for a while until the right gets healthy.
And that's subconscious too.
Yeah.
And on that point, it's like people, they won't tell you that. No one's going to tell you that. How rare is it you have? Yeah, how rare is it someone will say, "Hey, man, I'm not like having a super good time here because David over there is doesn't have the right attitude." Yeah. You know what I mean? They're just not going to tell you that. They're just going to leave.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're constantly getting these people in and out of the door, right? This huge turnover. David's your number one. Like David's always great to me. Like shows up, he does okay work. Productivity's not where I want it to be, but hey, you know what? We're making money. We're putting money in the account. I can't get rid of David. But meanwhile, you're wondering why my turnover is so high? And every single new person that comes in sees David as senior. They're never going to say anything about that. Like, this dude has been here for the last 5 years, right? When they come in on board, it's like, I'm not going to call out him. He's like, he's the top tech. And that's missed too. I feel like a lot of the time, especially I've seen the same pattern, and it's like you just don't realize it because no one's going to say anything. Even if you ask them, "Hey, is everything going good?" "Oh, everything's great."
Yeah, we've
really
had instances like that in some stories where shop owners talk about the relief of firing that sort of tech. It's like because they don't think they can do it, but then once they do it, it's like a breath of fresh air for everybody in the shop. And it's like, oh
Yeah.
wow, I didn't realize that I could let this person go and everything would be okay.
Yeah, that place of fear, man.
It is. It's hard. And it's like I don't even have an answer for that. It's hard. It's hard because that's a gamble. There's a financial risk, there's a personnel risk, there's all kinds of risks, and it's like, how do you quantify? Like you said, how do you quantify those risks? Like you have to take them, but how? When?
Yeah. And you're wondering to yourself the whole time if it's the right thing to do. You can't go back, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, it all comes to that breaking point. By that time you hire a coach, and then you get this group of people around you. You start going to seminars, then you start realizing this pattern, and everybody's telling you the same damn thing. That's about as close of an answer as you're ever gonna get, right?
Yeah.
And that's
true.
That's the power behind getting the coach. That's the power behind going to those seminars. That's the power behind getting a good community around you. Is everyone starts saying the same thing, right? Collectively as a group. And the group process is like more impactful than you'll ever realize, right? Until you're like part of it and you realize like, man, everyone's kind of saying the same thing, and maybe they're not all super successful, but man, if you have people that are successful, that aren't that successful, and they're all kind of saying the same general thing, and you're looking for an answer, dude, there's your answer, No one's ever going to just say, hey, you need to fire him. Like, no one's going to say that because no one understands the intricacies of what's going on behind the scenes.
No, that's very true. That's very true. And I think that's the challenging part, because when you're the leader and you're in the shop day to day before, if you haven't been able to take yourself out or at least step back a little bit, it's hard to see when you're on the front lines with your team.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to see. And it takes either someone to bring that to your attention, whether that's someone on the personnel or it's a coach or someone else, but it's not something that you can readily see on your own. A lot of the time. I mean, like,
absolutely.
Something's wrong, you just don't know what all the time.
And then your ego just won't allow someone to tell you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah,
you can't tell me what to do in my own business. It's like, you don't understand.
That, or you have to admit to yourself that you didn't hire the right person. And that's hard. Sometimes that's hard too. Like, you're like, I didn't choose the right person here.
Let all that go, man.
You do.
Like,
You have to.
And that goes right back to, like, it's not personal. That is business, right? Like, right there. Yeah. Like, you got to let go of your own personal intuitions and just realize you're going to do nothing but make a bunch of mistakes.
Yeah. And so you just have to learn. I mean, like, the reality is you have to learn detachment in all situations.
Oh,
like, okay.
Nice.
You got to learn detachment. It's like that Buddhist culture, man. Just be detached from outcomes. Okay. I love all my people, but they're my team, but I have to be fully detached from the outcomes of how things go sometimes.
Oh, that's nice. I love that. I'm going to write that one down. Everybody stop caring so damn much, huh? Oh, wait, maybe care a little bit more than that.
Yeah, no, you definitely, you want to care, but at the same time, you don't want to be so attached, so like linked to a particular person, because people do change their minds. Lives change, situations change. Maybe your advisor needs maternity leave and she has to go for a while. It's like, oh man, that was my number one advisor. Or maybe your technician has to move across the country because his spouse is military. Things change. Just like, just always have a fluid mindset that, okay, it's business. Business is always going to move at its own pace. I can't control people. I can't control situations. I just have to enjoy the ride.
That's right. Enjoy the process and embrace the suck.
Yeah.
It's another Jocko Williams. I don't know.
Embrace the suck. I know that one for sure. But it's fun. I mean, it's fun. I mean, that's what you signed up for. You signed up to be a business owner. You signed up for that challenge. You believed in yourself enough to go for it. And you believed that you could lead people and be an economy to people who needed it. And you did all those things. You checked all those boxes. Those people are feeding their families. They're happy. They're supporting the community that they love. You're supporting the community that you love. And it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing to be a shop owner.
I love that. That's a great piece right there.
Yeah.
Keep doing you.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, this has been super insightful, man.
Yeah, it was fun. I appreciate the time, Jimmy.
Yeah, it's Chris Jones with formerly Ratchet and Wrench,
Yep.
and
Now the
your new adventure now is
My new adventure now is a group editorial director for the vehicle repair group sector of Endeavor Business Media. So that's kind of providing oversight for Ratchet and Wrench, Motor Age, P10, Professional Distributor, National Oil and Lube Magazine, National Oil and Lube News, Fender Bender, ABRN. So all the Modern Tire Dealer. So all the automotive publications that we have in our portfolio.
just a few.
Just a couple of them.
Just a couple. The whole stack I got sitting right here on my desk
Yeah.
next to me. I got almost I think everyone you
Yeah.
just said.
But I tell you, man, automotive is it's a special industry, and it's only going to get better now that we're in this technical revolution for automotive. It's only going to get better. So if you're struggling to hang on, just find a buddy, find a shop owner that you can connect with, man, to encourage you, because you're in the throes of something really special here in the next decade.
Yeah, I agree with that. Pick up a magazine,
Yeah,
read one of Chris's articles, stay in
right
the loop,
on.
right? Like the information is there, man. And
It's
there's
there.
some super knowledgeable people in the industry that have really no technical experience, but there's so much you can learn, right? Just like in this
Mhm.
conversation in itself. It's like that's the information that you need to know, right? And just because they don't know how to fix a car doesn't mean they're not as smart as you, right? That's the
Yeah.
problem with the ego of the technician, Like, calm down, man. Put that in your back pocket and
Uh,
freaking listen.
yeah, it's
So
like what they
close
say.
your mouth and open your ears.
They say if you're the smartest guy in if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
There it is. Absolutely. Well, Chris, thanks again for your time, man.
Thanks, Jimmy. All right, take care.